America's racist. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, move. Okay. So now, what are your reasons for standing on slightly agree?
Well, I have a lot of friends of color, and seeing the things that they go through versus what I go through.
Uh-huh.
For example, going into in high school, me and a friend who was black went into a store. We did go in separately and went to separate aisles, and in that store, she had everyone, like two employees following her. They didn't know her. We had never been in that store before, and they automatically assumed that she was shoplifting
How do you know they assume that?
because they came up to her and they said, "Are you shoplifting?"
And what did she say?
She said no. She asked why that they thought that, and then one of them straight told her that she's black, so they just assumed.
Oh, so they were at least honest with her.
They were honest, but it was still, I don't know if I would say racist or prejudice, but it still was going against her skin color.
Okay. So, and you're saying that's not a one-off. That's like a common thing.
I've seen a lot of it. I'm from a smaller town in Southern Oregon, and they're just the things that are said, and people back it up by the fact like, oh, it's America, like we have freedom of speech, and that often that freedom of speech gets mixed up in. I mean, you do have freedom of speech, but a lot of times people will use that freedom of speech in order to use hate speech.
Okay. Do you agree with everything she said? I mean, I know you don't know her friend, obviously, but do you agree with the sentiment?
Basically, yeah.
Okay. So why are you on the strongly agree line?
Because I believe in the systemic inequalities that exist in the U.S.
Okay. So that's different from what you said. So he mentioned the word systemic.
Systemic, yes.
So do you think there are systemic inequalities?
I do. I don't know. I feel like I haven't done enough research to really.
That's fair.
Yeah, I might believe in it, but I don't have the facts to back up what I like in order to get into a conversation about it.
So you're saying it's more on an individual basis, and the gentleman on the strong agree, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it seems to me that he's saying it's more of a system-wide thing. Is that right?
Sure, yeah.
Okay.
I think it's really hard for me to speak on it being a white person just because I only see what happens in my group. I never lived through the oppression
Sure.
or the racism or any of that. But on top of that, I feel like America is based in racist ideals. And if you look at who the land is stolen from,
Okay, so correct me if I'm wrong, but every single thing you said to me indicates that you should be on the agree line.
I didn't choose the agree line just because I was nervous and I didn't know. I think it's,
Well, what do you think is true? You should stay on the line you think is true.
yes.
So I'm not telling you to move.
No, yeah.
But what do you think is true?
I do think America is racist, yes.
Okay, so then why don't you move? Okay.
It more has to do with I think it more has to do with intensity of decision making.
What do you mean?
So all of these are agree. It's just the intensity at which you would agree.
How about instead of intensity, confidence level, how confident one is? Is that fair?
Sure, I mean confidence, which creates intensity.
Okay, all right, fine. So
Either way.
you're on strongly agree because you intensely feel. Was the word feel? I don't want to put words in your mouth. Is it think? Is it what is it?
I mean, all the above. It's not a thing that I directly experience. I mean, obviously, as a white guy, I don't really experience racism on the day-to-day quite in the same way
So-
as a minority person. But
So you said the word systemic before. What is that the word you use, or is this system? System. What does that word mean?
I mean, it's the violence inherent within the system, to quote Monty Python.
So, like, okay, so give me an example of a law currently on the books. Let me repeat that. Give me an example of a law currently on the books that's racist.
It doesn't have to do with laws. It has to do with entrenched social movements.
Give me an example of something currently, like, I'm not exactly sure what that means, but if it's systemic to me, and maybe this is my understanding, it would mean that there's something in the system. Like, that's the definition of systemic.
Like laws?
Well, that's what when I hear systemics, it's the first thing I think of.
Laws are one of the very few things that govern our behavior, or one of the many things, rather. Sorry.
yeah,
One
okay.
of so it's, yeah, so it's not just laws that determine whether we do something or not, and it also doesn't determine what's good in the world. So, like, you could say that it's all has to do with laws, but then you're kind of just degrading it to that single point of
Okay,
how
that's
we
fair.
exist as
That's
humans.
fair. To give me an example of a system that's racist that in the is it in the United States? Yeah, in America.
A system that's racist.
Yeah.
Trying to think of a specific one.
Take time. You can move, by the way. You can move to the strongly agree. Oh, I thought you were going to move.
Oh, no, I was
You're
just
free
checking
to
for him.
you're free to move anywhere you want. Just free country.
Well, I've particularly been studying gender relations at the moment.
But let's try to. That's I'm happy to do that claim
Well,
next.
no,
We
I
put
know,
that
I
on.
know, I know, but it's the same sort of dichotomy. It's the same sort of um, power relation in terms of gender as opposed to racism.
Yeah, but is it okay if we do racist? Because that's only the claim now. We'll talk about gender if you want to write another one on the board. But give me an example of a system of racism that we currently have in the country.
Right, current system of racism. It's like entrenched social patterns. So it's not so much laws or government or sort of formalized.
Yeah, we'll forget laws. We'll forget laws.
written
Just give
stuff.
give me a system.
It's more just how people act with each other. So like literally what she's described earlier, this sort of circumstance in which somebody
Her
was,
friends.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was circumstance in which somebody was supposed to have done something because of their skin color, because of internal assumptions that we have about particular people. That's the systemic. Sort
How
of
is that systems in terms of just people? Maybe there were two just neo Nazis or just weird, creepy people, or just. I mean, how is that a system?
Because we're in a system. Humans are systemic. So people cause systems, and systems cause people. You can't just look at it from the system causing people, but the people causing systems.
Okay, so if the same case of a black person going in a store and nobody approached them, the same argument that you just could be used to say that there's a system in place that does not discriminate against. So it would seem to be more than the behavior of people. So a system is a very specific claim. You're saying it's a system. Like, give me an example of a system.
She's describing one from the outside.
So first, I do want to say that I do feel like this is like, I know a lot of people try to say like factually America's racist. In my opinion, I do think the phrase America's racist is an opinion. I don't know if that stems from me not liking conflict. But I just want to say first that this is my opinion. Like, I don't have the factual evidence to back it up and say it's a fact.
Okay, let's pause on that.
Yeah.
So when I say America's racist, the claim is that true? Do you agree that that's true?
I do agree that it's true. Yes.
Okay, so we're not talking about an opinion. We're talking about something that's a claim that hooks to reality in a lawful way.
Okay. So, and again, this is just what I have been a part of. I have a friend who is Hispanic, and I had gotten into a verbal fight with someone. I think this was last year.
Is this an example of a system?
System, yes.
Okay,
I'm getting
great,
there.
great.
Yeah. I am going to bring up, and I don't know if it's racist or if it's just prejudice.
Okay.
But the police force
Okay.
in Eugene, just because, actually, I think it was Springfield. I believe it was Springfield. We were in that area. And I had gotten into a verbal fight with someone who was catcalling. There was something thrown.
They're catcalling you.
Yes, someone, there was things that had been thrown. It was on the street and the police were called. Right away, my friend, who was Hispanic, tried to explain to them what was happening, and they assumed, again, that she was the one who had started the fight. They told her to shut up. They told her to be quiet.
How do you know that it was because of her skin color? What did they tell you? Like your other friend, you're black, they told her. How do you know it was because of her skin color?
Again, I can't specifically say that they did it because of her skin color, but they did tell her straight up, "We know you started this fight." They said that directly to her. The other person was white. I was white. It's just kind of the feeling you got, and also everything that had been going on already with the Springfield police.
So you're saying that there's a culture within the police department. Is that what you mean by system culture?
It can be. So, like, culture or the way we act sort of determines what the system is or what laws are, which you seem to be hung up on. Like the
No,
yeah.
I threw the laws out the window. I'm just trying to figure out what the
I mean, you
definition of
can't-
a system is.
You also can't throw it out. It's just a matter of
Okay,
direction.
we'll bracket it, but I'm trying to figure out when someone says a systemic thing. She did not say that. You said that. I'm trying to figure out what you mean by that because I am not clear.
Well, I mean, she brought up, for example, the police.
Yeah.
It's not that they have laws that direct them to be racist. It's that internally, somehow, people are racist, which determines behavior. In any given circumstance. Like, if a police stops a white person, they're less likely to arrest them than with a black person. So you might call it even individual, but it's everybody does it.
Okay, so I'm
in that
trying to
way, it's
figure out.
systemic.
So let's say that we have a police force in whatever city she's from. I can't remember what she said, someplace in Oregon.
Oh, this was in Springfield.
Okay, but let's just pretend that it's someplace, some weird place that nobody ever goes to that has a population of like 10,000. And let's say that every single person who applies to the police force there is some kind of closeted Klansman. So they're a member of the Klan, but they don't let anybody know they're a member of the Klan. Run with me with the thought experiment.
Okay.
I'm trying to figure out what the word system means.
Sure.
And they all go and decide that they're going to become police officers. They go through training. They all become cops. Is it then fair to say that is that what you mean by the system being racist? It's populated by people who hold racist. Is that what I'm trying to figure out what the word means?
Okay, so it's populated by people who are racist, yes.
Okay.
But also they're not exceptional. Like, they're not members of the KKK, they're just people.
Okay.
And people are generally, Americans specifically, are racist. Because your little America is racist, better question is Americans are racist.
Okay. But that's a different claim.
It's the same claim. America is constitutive of its parts, which is Americans.
I'm 100% happy to do the gender thing next, and Americans are racist. But you stood on the strongly agree line. So you must strongly agree, unless you stood on the wrong line. You're free to move to agree or anywhere in the line you want. I'm trying to, and I don't mean to linger on this necessarily, but I think it's so important to understand what you mean when you say it's a system.
Okay. All right. It's a system.
That's why I was saying the examples. Like so let's say they're not KKK members. Let's say that they're harboring some animus against black people, and they all decide to become cops. Does that mean that the system is acting against black people, or individuals within the system? Because that's an extremely crucial distinction.
Okay. So individuals within the system that are not exceptional. So they constitute the system. So, like, it's not members of the KKK that are joining the police because they're racist or whatever.
They constitute the personnel who are members of the system, but they are not the system.
Yeah, but they are. So, like, anybody who is a police officer is a small, very small, infinitesimally small part of a larger whole. But
Right.
yeah.
Okay.
So,
I agree. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So we're on the same page now. Translate to me how that makes the system racist.
Because people make up the system. So people make the system, like laws, literally any, like.
Okay, so
anything
a part
we
of
are
the
as
system is racist. In this we don't have to use the example. Just throwing that example. A part of that system is racist, but that doesn't mean that the personnel in the. But that doesn't mean that the system itself is.
Well, I think that
Am I
there's-
missing something?
No,
I'm
no,
probably
I don't
missing
think, I don't
something.
think you're missing anything. This is also this is another opinion I believe. For me, I believe that there's a difference between the system that's been created and what the system was based on. So, like, the idea that came before the creation of the system.
Right, and I think what he's saying is that people participate in a culture.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I honestly think that the system is racist only because within those few.
Well, how come you're not over there then?
Just because I do think, for me, I've only seen it situational. I haven't seen the bigger picture. I haven't been hounded or oppressed or just like nothing's happened to me. I've only seen it like through my eyes from someone else being. I just feel
I
like
got that. I
I
got
feel
that.
like
Okay.
I need more facts and more to know more what to say before I would be able to go to strongly agree. I'm
Okay,
not
that's
like
fair. No, no, that's the most reasonable thing I've heard. Okay, so what would it take you to move from strongly agree to agree? What would you have to learn, figure out here? I'm so sorry about that. What would it take for you to move from strongly agree to agree?
Uh, I don't think I would.
So, what evidence would you have to hear? What reason would you have to hear? What argument would you have to see to persuade you?
I see no point in being in agree or slightly agree. I am either going to be in strongly agree or strongly disagree.
I followed you up into the very end. Why? I was right up. I tracked the whole thing you said up until the why. Why?
If somebody convinced me that America is not racist, then I would be in strongly disagree. I would not. There's no like gradient to me.
What if someone convinced you, like she said, that there are a non-trivial number of people harboring racist attitudes, and that I could show you examples of redlining and lack of equity and equitable distribution in schools and poor people in black neighborhoods going to worse schools? Like, what if, and if I could show you statistics of black people being pulled over by the police but disproportionate rates? Yeah, I mean,
We all know that, yeah. We all know that. I hope the statistics of it. Um,
But I just don't understand. So what? Okay, then what evidence would it take you to move to strongly disagree? What would you have to be shown?
that America is not racist.
Okay, and what would that look like? What data set would that look like?
I have no idea because I don't agree with it. Like, how would I know? Or else I would be over there.
Well, wouldn't you have to know the conditions under which your belief could be false to justify your confidence in the belief?
Could be false. I mean, I suppose you are right. I would have to be convinced in some way that that statistically and or empirically, um, America has no racism. I mean, that's just like extending out the America is not racist statement.
Or maybe it's just that it's not as racist as you thought. Like, what evidence would you have to think that it's not as racist as you thought to move you to the agree line?
Um, I don't know that a lot of people don't experience racism on the day to day, for example.
A lot of people, or the majority of people, or some people? Like a lot meaning like 25.
Well, more people than I've heard. I don't know. I guess if it's a um, gradient, which I'm still not convinced it is. It's just is or is not, to me, really, because of its systemic nature. Or else,
Systemic. There we go again with systemic. Yeah. Do you have anything to add before we wrap up?
I try my hardest not to think in black and white, so I feel like we're very different.
Who you and the guy on
Yes,
the
yeah. I just feel like even though I don't know much, I feel like because I don't know much, I try to understand both sides, and I do understand the fact that people don't see a lot of racism if they're predominantly in a white background, like culture, like city especially, and so I don't like it. I don't go straight to trying to attack them for what they don't know, and I try to listen to what their views are. But I do think that America is racist. And one thing I wanted to say last time, just really quickly, is that especially with the police force, what we were talking about, I think that the system itself is racist within the fact that even though there are few sometimes more, but I'm going to say few for now, that have have done racist things, think racistly.
What, are you talking about police or general
Police.
citizens?
Right now, police.
Okay.
Even like, and it's been proven that there have been people have been fired for it, which I think is a good step in equality, kind of what you're asking him about. You have to know the opposite side of what you argue for. And so I do think that's a good step towards equality. And it does prove a point of America is kind of not as racist as it was before. We obviously don't do lynchings. We don't do all these things, but I do feel like that's the bare minimum. But with the police force, what I was saying, even if there's only a few people who have these racist ideologies, the system as a whole, and this was more, I feel like more people are cracking
Okay.
down on it, but as a whole, if you look at 2016, 17, their system backed them up.
Okay. Last question. Two quick ones. Is there anything it would take for you to move to one line or the other? Or you're happy with where you are?
I'm pretty happy with where I am. I do know that there are more facts. There's evidence that could
Sure.
definitely cause me to go to slightly agree. I don't think I would go to disagree. I don't think I would go that far just because I feel like we have a long way to go before we can say that we're not racist.
Cool. And then the last question, something you made me think about the police and racism in the police force. If you were to guess, you're not an expert. I'm not an expert. I'm not a cop. But if you were to take a guess of how many black men were killed by the police, say last year, roughly what number would you guess? Roughly. Again, you're not an expert on it. Like, just take a guess.
Oh, I would. This is just across America.
Yeah. Yeah.
12 months. Okay, I would say probably in the high hundreds, maybe
Okay.
around 8. I just
800?
know. Yeah, I just know that there's a lot that we don't. Even though we do have technology and the internet and stuff, I feel like there's a lot that doesn't.
Okay. No,
get
I'm not
shown.
an expert. You're not an expert. I'm just trying to get it. Do you want to take a guess with that, or do you want to? We can end now because I'm going to do another claim.
I imagine it's enough, as in disproportional.
What? You imagine it's one? I'm sorry.
Disproportional between killing black people versus white people, etc.
Like, do you want throw a number out there? She gave me 800. You think it's too low or too high or about right?
I have no number. I don't know.
All right. Well, I appreciate that. Oh, one more quick question. What if I were to show you that number, evidence to your satisfaction and his satisfaction, that number were 22,500? Would you be willing to move to the strongly agree?
I would definitely think about it. I would want to do more research. I feel like there's more things that go into, because I will say there are times when people are genuinely dangerous. The cops do have to shoot or do something.
But 22,000. I'm not saying I have
yeah.
that number. I'm just throwing. If I showed you that number was 22,500, would you be willing to move to the strongly agree?
I would, because I do think that's wrong. I do think a lot of times police use their force when it's not necessary, and they do have some of them have
Okay.
that racist ideology.
Okay, so let me ask you another question. What if I were to show you that number was under 20, closer to 10 or to 12? Would you move to the slightly agree?
I would probably move to the slightly agree, but then again, with the same number you gave out last time, I'd want to look more into
To
it.
your satisfaction, and to the NAACPs, and to
I was also going to say, like, the fact that people of color are a minority, because I have family that have the ideology that, like, America isn't racist, like, these things happen, and I never really bring it up, but I do have the thought in the back of my head of white people are a majority while people of color are a minority. So I feel like the argument of
but the under 20 thing would convince you, if to your satisfaction, if you looked at all the data, we got your professors, experts, and then I have to wrap it up. You'd go to slightly agree?
I don't think I would, actually. No.
You wouldn't go to slightly agree. Interesting. Okay. Well, thank you for your time, both of you. Appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah.
What's the number?
14.
Yeah, figures. Yeah, but it's that proportions.
But so here's the
Is that total or
here's the
black
actual
people?
data. Black people are roughed up more than white people
Right.
once they're in custody.
Right.
Black people are roughed up by black police officers as much as they are by white police officers.
Yes, black people are also capable of racism.
Correct.
Internal, or is it
Black
internal?
people are shot at disproportionate rates under the rates at which police officers shoot white people. There have been under 20 shootings of black police, and that's with like young black men launching themselves at officers.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the whole thing. So the number is closer to 14. Some people you ask it's 10, some people you ask it's 18, but everybody you would ask
Whatever,
would
it
say
doesn't
it's
actually
under
matter.
20.
Yeah.
Don't you agree that with white people being a majority, there are more, like, there's more people, and so
Okay,
there's
let me
more
throw this.
likely- Oh yeah, I'm just
Let me
curious.
throw this out to you before we go. I don't think literally any sane person would disagree that the police have, if you look at the data for murders, this is a huge thing, and I have to do another crop of people.
Yeah, yeah.
The people who are arrested and they're arrested and they convict murders more are men. Like,
Okay,
we know that. The
yeah.
data is, no sane person could disagree with that.
Yeah.
Literally nobody. But nobody says the police are discriminatory or biased against men. The reason that the police have police just have more contact with black people, and then there are consequences that follow from that. So it's just a question of like looking and figuring out what the data
Why do
is.
they have more contact with black?
There's the question. Now that could be the systemic part. It could be any one of a number of reasons, but you have to have a conversation about it. Anyway, I hope you found that helpful.
Would it be okay to ask where you stand?
On which part about it?
Just the America's racist.
Yeah, I would do that at the end of the day. I can't give that away because
Oh,
we're gonna do other. And if
Okay.
one of the lessons I've learned, I know I got to wrap it up. One of the lessons I've learned is if I tell people right, that biases them to where they'll stand.
Yeah. Are you
All
guys
right, we're gonna
posting
do
this
one
anywhere?
more, huh?
Are you guys posting this anywhere?
Yeah,
or-
we'll probably post these to YouTube or something.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would it just be like under America, or would it?
Yeah, well, probably that would be the claim. All right, thanks.